Hey, welcome back. Jacob from Ahava. Let's continue with the halacha 8 in Masechet Tzofrim, the 8th halacha, understanding the real differences of the Septuagint, how to tell and what happened, what led to this. So we just summed up previously that initially Talmai called 5 wise elder luminary sages to translate the Torah, and the tragedy of this translation we understand now in the previous video, leaving the real symbols of the Aleph Bet, Has v'Shalom, to any other language and script. And now we're seeing in Halacha 8 the continuation of what happened. So initially it says, Shuv, a repeating occurrence, Ma'aseh b'Talmai HaMelech, another case involving Talmai HaMelech, Ptolemy, that gathered 72 Zekenim, 72 luminary sages this time. First, he gathered 5 luminary sages. Now he gathered 72 luminary sages. And according to what I read is called the letter of Aristias, which is like a secular source to corroborate this event that took place, is recorded in like the Greek official writings or the newspaper or whatever it was. It was a letter. So over there it said that it was like 10 delegates from every tribe or something like that. And then it comes out to 72. There's 12. No, that's not how it was. It 5 or 6? I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember that letter, which is like a corroborating thing for this exact event. But basically, it's a misnomer, therefore, also in the world that people say it's Targum Shiv'im. It's just because everybody likes shortcuts, but it's not 70 sages. It was specifically 72 sages. And that's what I think, from what I understand, is Sep 72. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but 72 agents that translated the Torah into Greek. Why is this happening all of a sudden now? Previously, we just learned that there were 5. And now all of a sudden, there are 72. And we'll see why in a second. It says that he invited these 72 sages and he placed them in 72 separate rooms. And he did not reveal why he brought them into there. On what reason did he gather them and put them in these 72 separate rooms? Nichnas lechol echad ve'echad mehem. He entered every single room and said to them, Kitvu li Torat Moshe Rabchem. Write me the Torah of Moshe, your teacher, your rabbi, which is leader in Aramaic, Rabbi, right? So to increase and to make great. So Natan hamakom eitza belev kol echad ve'echad. So the name that's used of God here is hamakom, the place. I don't know what it means, if it's situational awareness. God is communicating to you through your environment and through where you are right now. Like what is Hashem communicating to you? Where do you find yourself? Anyway. Why Hamakom as opposed to all the other names of Hashem? Because there's no synonyms. There's a reason why this name and not another name. So we have to understand that as well. So Hashem gave every single one of these luminary sages the same advice. It was like this was a divine intervention into these 72 sages. Vehiskimu da'atan l'da'at echad. And they all wrote and understood what to write, and they all wrote the same exact thing. They wrote him a Torah that's meant for him, that what God wanted to reveal right now. And they were translating it. V'katvu Torah b'fnei atzma, wrote him the Torah separately. V'shlosha asar davar shinuba. And 13 changes they made in this translation. All made the same exact translation, all making these exact 13 changes, understanding what needed to happen. And also, just a side note, before we get into what are these 13 changes, and hopefully try to explain them a little bit, but just the fact that the miracle was that they all wrote the same exact thing, and not that the building collapsed and they all escaped through the windows or something. Meaning that God wanted the Torah to be revealed to the world, and God wanted this to happen. Although the Torah goes down an entire level when it's translated into Greek, apparently God still desires, of course, people to connect in the language they understand, Initially, it seems like stories until you come back to the real scroll, which is symbols and pictures and numbers and sounds and all these things that does not exist in a different translation. Okay, and so now we understand what makes it unique. The 72 translation, the 72 sages made 13 changes. And again, 13 is such a beautiful number, but it became such a evil number in the world. But we discussed that in a different video. But obviously we want to restore it. So this is another good example. It's a beautiful number. There was 13 specific changes, and we'll understand hopefully why that is. A lot of them share the same theme, and as best I can from memory right now, and we'll try to, if not, we'll include in the comments any fixes or in the description. So the first one is Elokim bara Bereshit. The first pasuk of the entire Torah was changed. And the pasuk in the Torah says Bereshit bara Elokim. This word first, obviously with the big bet, that is the first symbol of the entire Torah. But this would be the first word, Bereshit, and then this would be the second word, and this would be the third word. They flipped it now all of a sudden and said that in the beginning of the creation of the world, Hashem created reality. Hashem created all reality. So now it reads, instead of saying in the beginning like that, it now begins, God created the beginning of everything. The all-powerful God. And now this name Elokim specifically, and not the four-symbol name, the tetragrammaton, as said, the four-symbol word. This Elokim is specifically, all of the powers are in the control of Hashem, are in Hashem's control. That's what the name Elokim signifies, and a way to remember is that really if there's a hey in the middle of the word Elim, Elim, El is singular power. Elim is powers. Elokim is like has a hey in there, and hey, as we learn, is the hand, being numerically 5 and really deeper is 14. Your 5 fingers have 14 segments. And basically saying that Elokim is everything. All of those Elim, all of those powers are really in the control of Hashem. So the all-powerful God is what Elokim should be translated as, not simply God, but the all-powerful God is what Elokim is trying to convey as opposed to other names of God. So now it's reading, this is the first line of the entire Torah in the Septuagint, the real one. The all-powerful God created from nothing the beginning of everything. So that's bara is created from nothing, as the Vilna Gaon explains, and Bereshith is the beginning of, and it's not even a finished thing. Bereshith, meaning like it's the beginning of literally everything. It's the beginning of. That's how it's translated. So right away, the very first verse, that's already the greatest way to tell. You open up any single Bible. Does it begin? The all-powerful God created from nothing the beginning of everything. Is that the first verse there? If not, this is not the Septuagint. Right away. Which is a shocking thing, but B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to be dealing with a lot of shocking things, because if we really want the real thing, then unfortunately a lot of mistakes crept in the past that need to be now fixed. And so fortunately for us now that we could fix them, unfortunately that they happen, but fortunately that we can identify them and fix them and restore them to what it's supposed to be, to restore the text to what it's supposed to be, restore the order of Tanakh, restore the script of Tanakh, Ktav HaShurit, restore the books that were split, restore all the real Sidrei HaTorah and not the Prakim that we have in Tanakh, which is a meaningless. Meaningless. It helps you, get to a different chapter and whatever. But we have our own Sidrei HaTorah, the real breaks of the text, where they go thematically and sensically and highlighting the beautiful verses that are meant for all to be able to recall. The chapter headings are much more beautiful than, let's say, the Prakim, for example, because they were just, I think the word is arbitrarily put, just random places, no real understanding or meaning. If not, God forbid, a sinister placement to try to highlight sinful things or something, and to try to highlight bad things in like the Torah, has v'shalom, so that when someone's reading the index of the Torah, if it's according to the prakim, you're getting weird verses, you're getting bad verses. Could begin normally in a sidra, what is the real transmission? It doesn't begin with any negative thing. That's normally the general thing, or it's like such an epic event that it has to be included. That's what is being discussed, and we can't escape it. And we need to understand it. So anyway, that's another download that you could actually get online. Okay, and let's go to verse 2. So that's the first verse. So that people shouldn't say also that, Bereshit is the name of God or something like that, or come up with all these crazy things that now I've seen on YouTube, God forbid. People manipulating language, blending Aramaic into biblical Hebrew, which is, you can't do that. You can't just bend the rules to whatever you want to now make it fit to what you're trying to make it, to what you're trying to show people. Okay, but Vayomer Elokim, none of us obviously watching this video, but it says Vayomer Elokim, and then it says E'ese in the singular. E'ese Adam, I will create Adam, a complete Adam, male and female, B'Tselem uVedmut, with the likeness and with the... It's interesting. What is the difference between Tselem and Demut? I know that in the Nefesh HaChaim it discusses it, but I have to reread it. But basically, Tselem was poorly translated as like the image. There's no image, obviously, because God is not a image. God is not a body. God is not physical features, obviously. Not any singular lonely man up in the sky or on earth or anything like that. So Tselem has to do with the closeness and likeness, and Demut is also translated as likeness. So I'm just gonna say that for right now, and maybe check the comments if I'm gonna look it up, hopefully after, and to really understand the nuance of what's going on. But basically, the switch that was made here is that the verse really says Na'aseh Adam in the plural, and it was changed to say E'ese in the singular. I will make in the singular, as opposed to saying we will make a man. Who is speaking if it's saying we? If God is one, what is all of a sudden we going on here? And so the sages transmit the message that the Torah is not simply just giving you, it's not a history book, like just trying to tell you what happened once. It's a guide to life. It's trying to teach you that Hashem is showing the world the appropriate way to act. And so Hashem, as if consults with the angels to say, should we create a man? Whatever this even means, obviously. That Hashem generates the angels, generates reality. These are crazy levels, obviously. What does this all mean? But we'll get into that. So basically, the sages here are saying that they didn't want people to confuse and say that there's multiple gods. That it says, Na'aseh, we shall make man. Who's we all of a sudden? There's more than one. It should be, I will make. If it's one God, then it should be I. And so for us, again, the plurality comes when the one is fractured and split into two already, and then broken into multiple pieces. That is where the fracture and beginning of the breaking comes and everything like that. But really, God is one, and one is male and female united that create life. And God created Adam in the likeness of the infinite God, masculine, feminine, that are one and creative and energy, that are one and complete, and therefore there's no concepts of people marrying God or anything like that. God is, one, doesn't need anything. There are parents. Hashem doesn't need to have us. Parents didn't need to have you. They wanted to have you. Okay, and obviously we're speaking about all the good. Okay, so that was the second change. So it says, Vayichal b'shishi, vayishbot b'shevi'i. And the Torah, it says, Vayichal b'shishi, Vayichal Elokim b'yom hashishi, and then and then it says also Vayishbot Bashevi'i in the seventh. I forgot the actual difference. Okay. Basically, from what I recall, it was trying to say that the verse says that God, you could misread it, that God worked on the Sabbath. Obviously, what a joke. Hashem, who knows, and basically, so the sages wanted to clarify God ceased all the work in the sixth and then created the concept of being able to rest and to free yourself from the weekly slavitude and slavery and have a few hours and moments to think and to connect with family and friends and with what's important and not with all of the other stuff. Okay, Zahar unekeva bira'am, the next one, the fourth verse. Again, this is the concept that it was written in plural, but Hashem Hashem is consulting with the angels, but the sages flipped it so that people should not misunderstand. Zachar u'nekeva bira'am, that God created them masculine and feminine. That actually might be a different reason. Forgive me. So the next one, Hava er davev lasham. That was one that was plural as well. By the Tower of Babel, God says as if to the angels, "Let us go down and decay and wither away their language." But they flipped it to singular. "Let me descend and decay their language, that I'll do it," in singular. So again, no plurality is the main focus. That God is not split into any split parts. God is completely one and perfect and beyond our envisioning. But God created things to give us in a hint, an illusion, an idea to what we're discussing. So all of a sudden, Vatishak bikroveha lemor. This one I did not understand, but this by Sarah, where it says that Vatishak bikirba, that she laughed within her frame, within her heart, which I guess they would be like, how is that possible or something? But they changed it. There must be a deeper meaning, obviously, but they changed it that she was laughing with her close ones. So this brings in a level, maybe now as I said that out loud, like she's maybe, God forbid, I can't even say this about Sarai Imenu, but she may have said too much to other people, and this was inappropriate, and that was that whole sequence. Like, why did Hashem react in such a way, or whatever it was? But again, God is so exacting with such righteous, the more righteous, whatever this concept means, but that should not be, then I don't want people, I was thinking it's like maybe like a deterrent. People are afraid to grow levels because all of a sudden, like, God's going to be more exacting with them. But that's not true. God knows your level, but they only accept, the great sages and leaders accept it at the highest levels and things like that. So here the next verse is Ki be'apam hargu ish u'birtzonam akru avus. Because they killed a man, and with their will they uprooted a yoke of an animal, from what I understand. They changed it to not recall the fact that the two brothers killed the rapist of their young baby sister and his entire people who are like him, because the people elect the leader who's like them. So it was a reflection, a true king, and meaning in the biblical sense, not a king in English, which is a tyrant. That's not what a king is. That's a fake king. That's called a tyrant. But a true king, in biblically speaking, melech, is by the will of free people. So if the king is corrupt, that means that the people are corrupt who elected a corrupt king who's like them and represents them, and he's a reflection of the people. So anyway, he raped their little baby sister and took her and kidnapped her and just said, then all of a sudden was like, all right, let's try to I want to marry her all of a sudden. So Shimon and Levi destroyed him and the men in the entire town, all the people who were, God forbid, rapists of little girls, or standing by or encouraging it or whatever it was. So they changed it. It was Birtzonam, and with their will, Akru Shechem, that they uprooted the whole city of Shechem, and Shechem ben Hamor, who's the son of Hamor, who raped, Has v'Shalom. Okay, so they changed that, I guess, to not recall that evil event. I don't know. Vayikach Moshe et ishto ve'et banav vayarkivem al nesiei Adam. That it says in the Torah that Moshe took his wife and his children, meaning like he spoke to them, the Targum. What does it mean? Vayikach? He took them with words. He said, come on, let's go. We need to go and help our people. We need to return. Vayarkivem al nesiei Adam. And he put them on the the things that are appropriate for transporting humans. So carriages, whatever it was, like a bus back then, whatever is the equivalent of, carriage or camels or whatever it was. But really, in the verse, it says that they put them on a donkey, like a simple donkey, but they didn't want the nations to like laugh at like the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu. So they dressed it up a little bit, fitting, of big people, and not like, he was riding on a lowly donkey and he didn't care, he just did it for his family. He just gave them what they need, basically. It wasn't beyond extravagant spending, whatever. Okay. If needed, of course, but not for no reason, of course. Umosha b'nei Israel, and in the verse it says Umosha b'nei Israel, and when Israel dwelt, asher yashvu be'eretz Mitzrayim ube'eretz Canaan, that this is what was added. So here, as opposed to changing something, this was actually added, that they were dwelling. When you do the calculations, they wanted to make it easier. So it's like that the exile really started already in the land of Canaan, all the way by like Avraham even. And so the total then was Shloshim Shana ve'arba me'ot Shana, 430 years. And why does the Torah write it like that, 30 and then 400? We'll see that. Okay, and then it says Moshe b'nei Yisrael. Okay, so that was that verse. Okay, and then all of a sudden here they added another thing. Ve'el za'atuti b'nei Yisrael. Za'atuti apparently in the Jastrow dictionary is like a language of love, or it's like a cute name. It even sounds kind of cute. Zatuti, like tutti frutti. I don't even. Zatuti b'nei Israel. These are my precious children, b'nei Israel. Lo shalach yado. That he did not send, a single thing into them. So it says lo hamad echad mehem. Lo hemed echad mehem. That Moshe is saying, I didn't take a single desirable thing even, but really the initial verse was, not a single donkey I took from them. Again, like Moshe is so humble. Like I didn't take even like a lowly, not to put down a donkey, but like a simple donkey I didn't even take from the people. I didn't take, meaning I didn't profit from the people. Which is so interesting how profit in English became profit also financially. How it, God forbid, became corrupted like that. If that is the connection, in fact. Why would these two words sound the same? You see, in English it might be like it's meaningless. But in Hebrew, two words that sound the same, and two words spelled with the same symbols, show a direct link in information. So it might be as well in English, because all languages really blend, and phonetically writing it out and saying it, you could spell it in many ways, but saying it out loud sounds the same, and it's the same word essentially. Okay, so that was another thing. And then it says, Nasati et seirat haraglaim, that I took away from you the one who is like as if short. She's young in her feet, short legs, like they didn't grow fully, meaning what animal has like the short legs or whatever. But what they're trying to say here was for the rabbit, Arnevet was the name of Talmai's wife. And so they didn't want Talmai to read it and say, look, like they're like making fun of my wife's name or something. They're making fun of my wife even if he were to read the Torah like that, thinking it's all about him or something, God forbid, whatever it is. But they basically changed it so that her name shouldn't be there in the list of the animals that are not fit to eat, that we cannot eat rabbit. The people of the world could eat rabbit, but again, if we're people of Israel, we can't eat a rabbit right now. Maybe in the future, God will change the rules or whatever it is if needed. If rabbit is that worth, who knows? I have no idea. But that's basically the change they made there. They didn't want to insult his wife. So the sensitivity again. Asher halak Hashem Elokecha otam ha'ir lechol ha'amim. This was added, that God has given them to illuminate to all the nations. This was supposed to be in the translation. This is to teach the world the Torah Sheba'al Peh. The leha'ir has to do with or and light, and that is the Torah Sheba'al Peh that illuminates the darkness, as we mentioned previously. Tachat kol hashamayim asher lo tziviti le'avdam. Under all the heavens that I did not command for them to be worshipped. So I forgot what this one was adding exactly, but under all the heavens, this was added, that I did not command to be worshipped. So there's things under the heavens that were given that are you meaning to worship or to give honor to. I don't know exactly how to translate this, and I have to look this one up. But to make sure that even these are 13, it's very interesting, because also I don't know if things were censored. or if manuscripts got corrupted over time. So we'll have to double check. But that is basically the real Septuagint. Those are the 13 changes. And the miracle is that they want the Torah to be available to all of humanity, the real deal, as best as possible in any translation, with obviously the pull to be able to bring people back up to the original, to want to see the original, to say that I could learn the original. The Aleph Bet are so easy to learn. It's so beautiful to learn. And we'll all start speaking Hebrew. It'll be an amazing, amazing thing. Okay, and so it just continues. This is like an interesting case. Halakha Tet, I'll just mention it because it's so quick. So they teach, the sages say, Ein kotvin bezahav, you don't write in gold. So it says, Maaseh betorato shel Alexandrus, that Alexander apparently had a Torah scroll written for him, whatever this means, because he had a great respect for Shimon HaTzadik. He says that I won all of my battles because I saw the likeness of Shimon HaTzadik on the battlefield. That's why he fell before Shimon HaTzadik and he prostrated himself. And his army's like, what are you doing bowing to this man? He's like, this is the image that I see when I win my wars. Before me, like winning before me. So it says that he apparently had a Torah scroll that all of the names of God, the Tetragrammaton, every single time was written in gold, which sounds very nice, right? It sounds beautiful. But it says that this case arrived before the wise elder sages, Ve'amru tignoz, you have to bury it, that it's unusable because of the fact that the halakha says that it needs to be the black metallic ink specifically, like to mimic the black fire on white fire. This primordial Torah, this digital Torah, the black text on the white pixel background, the contrast, and basically gold is not halakhically valid, although it seems logical, like to honor God, we would write God's name in gold, but the Torah is so simple in a way. It has to be written with the black ink, okay. So that was just a short example, and, this was a little bit lengthy because we went in depth. And check the comments for the rest of the explanations. And thank you so much for watching. Comments, questions, let us know. All the best.